Hey everyone, thank you for stopping by my channel today. If you are new here, my name is Kim and we are in the middle of a series that I created a few weeks ago, and it's about things that you wish people would have told you or warned you about before moving or working in Japan. Let's get right into it. So far we've talked about health and safety. This third chapter is going to be about living conditions and lifestyle. I've come up with a pretty big list of things, many of which maybe you've heard warnings about, but I'm going to kind of touch on things that maybe you haven't heard about or that no one has really gone into much detail about. Let's talk first about living conditions. Now, there are plenty of videos that talk about the types of apartments or houses or things that you can get. Sometimes you'll need help finding a place. Sometimes it might be a place that's passed down from a worker to a worker. Maybe some of you are at a stage where you're contemplating buying a place to live. And some of you are just happy or content living somewhere for however many years your contract is for. I'll save those kind of things or topics for videos that talk specifically about housing. Let's talk about a couple of things that come with housing, but I don't often hear it being discussed. One is parking. If you are lucky enough to get an apartment or a house or any residence that comes with parking, that's a lucky bonus. Oftentimes, places may not come with a parking space. You may have to pay an additional amount to rent that parking space, or you may have to park your car in a different parking lot. In other words, you might have to have a separate contract for parking. Many of you, if you're coming on the JET program, probably won't have a car just yet, or maybe you're not planning to get a car, in which case parking is probably of no concern to you. However, if you have a bicycle, you may want to check to see whether or not your particular unit comes with a bicycle parking area, or if you have to bring your bicycle up and down to wherever you live and bring it indoors with you. For those of you with nicer mountain bikes or more expensive cycles, you may want to do that and bring it to your place. Even though they say Japan is really safe and you don't have to worry about when you go to the market and you leave your bicycle there unlocked, well, that's usually the bicycles that are just get-around bicycles, not the real expensive cycles. So you still do have to lock everything up and make sure that you're putting your bicycle in an area that's designated for bicycles. Otherwise, you may find yourself going to retrieve it in a lot where they've taken away all the bicycles that are illegally parked, and you don't want to do that. If you have a vehicle, or if you're having guests come over to your house that have a vehicle, you need to make sure you are parking in the appropriate spot. Most people have designated spots if you are a resident in that building, complex, or housing area. So that means if you are having company, don't tell them park in a space that's free. Believe me, I've been there where you come back and someone is in your parking spot and they're not at the house and you need to find where to put your car. So it's kind of an inconvenience. Make sure that if you are having guests over, check to see that there is a guest parking lot. If not, your guests may have to park somewhere and then walk to your place. I found out the hard way because I was going to a party at one of my teacher friends in Osaka. She told all of us to go ahead and park on the street and not to worry because it wasn't street cleaning day and it would be okay. When we finished the party and we came out, we all had parking tickets. And these weren't just tickets written on paper. They were kind of like gigantic handcuffs that attach to your mirror and basically locks your ticket onto your car. And in order to get that gigantic handcuff off, you have to take it to the police station and pay your fine. I was a little bit upset because I trusted this teacher who said it's okay to park there. It wasn't. So when I went to the police station to get that handcuffy thing off and tell them, hey, we didn't know it wasn't okay to park there. The person that was hosting the party told us it was okay. So what should we do? And basically what they told me was, you can have your friend then pay half of the ticket for you. Well, I didn't want to do that. I'm sure she had good intentions, but she didn't realize that we would all get ticketed. It was kind of embarrassing driving around with that big lock. So I guess that's another piece that nobody tells you about. Sometimes parking tickets could be just a citation attached to your windshield. Whoops. Sorry, is this lighting changing? All of a sudden it looks really dark. Or it looks, oh, that's too bright. Sorry if that light, maybe I have to adjust this, hold on. Okay, hopefully that works a little bit better. Yeah, so just make sure that you check and make sure that parking is okay, not only for yourself, but also for your guests. Parking can range anywhere from, maybe 10,000 yen, which is roughly about $100 a month. Sometimes it's more expensive. The good part is that is your space, so you don't have to worry as long as nobody else parks there. But let's say you do have company over. If you go and find a different parking space for your car and let your guests park in that one, it's usually okay. If you are planning to buy a vehicle, you also need to show proof of a parking space. So definitely, if you are looking to rent a place, see if it comes with a parking space, and if it doesn't and you need one, find out where the nearest parking lot is. Another rule, like for example, the place I live now, they ask not to back into your parking space because otherwise the fumes go onto the front door area of the people next door. So that was just a simple request, but all right. Next, let's talk about trash. Let's talk about garbage. I think one of the things that surprised me is how the different categories are for throwing away your garbage. Certain garbage is collected only on a certain day, and you only put out the garbage that's going to be collected. Some complexes have a big trash bin area, so you can dump your trash out at any time, or you can bring your trash bags down at any time. Others, you'll have to hold on to it until it's that particular trash day. When there's a big holiday, like New Year holidays, trash pickup days change, so you need to really be aware of your trash pickup days. Every area, every city, every prefecture has its own set of trash rules or trash dumping rules. Make sure that when you move, you either go to your city hall and get the information about the trash pickup stuff. Sometimes they have it written in English, which is really helpful. Or if you don't know, ask the people next door to you, but definitely find out the information. Don't just go by sight. That was one of the things I had to tell my mom. She would take something out and I said, Mom, what are you doing? It's not that particular trash day. And she said, oh, but somebody's dumped a bunch of things by the trash area. And I said, they've done it incorrectly. Don't put it out there. Because she never took a look at the signs. She basically went with what I told her. We do have a little poster inside our house that tells when the trash days, what trash days or what kinds of pickup. I also have an app which I really love. I don't know whether it's to all of Yokohama or just to the particular area that I live in, but it's like a little dictionary So you can look up what it is that you want to dump and see which day it goes out. Trash dumping rules are pretty strict. The area that I live in now in Yokohama is what I would consider a lot more lenient and easy as far as living goes, because it's just as long as it's a clear bag, trash bag, and it's dumped in the proper area on pickup day, that's fine. So you don't necessarily need a certain type of garbage bag. You can recycle grocery store bags and just put it in the dumpster. We have it's not a dumpster, it's like a case, a dumping area that is, built, I guess, and set up for every pickup day and then taken down. So it's not there 24/7. In fact, our particular neighborhood requests that you don't bring your trash out the night before. You can drop it off in the morning, and they ask you to please make sure you dump your trash by a certain time. When I lived in Gunma, we had to have certain trash bags. They had to have the city area on it. You can buy them at any convenience store or supermarket in that area. So I couldn't buy Gunma trash bags here in Yokohama. I'd have to be somewhere in Gunma to get those particular trash bags. When I lived in Numazu, the neighborhood I lived in, we had to put the number of our apartment unit on the trash bag. Your trash is not private, my friends. When I lived in Totori, not the first time when I lived there, I had worked there one summer, and I believe we had to write our name, our last name on the trash bags. Why would you have to put your name or the particular unit you're living in? Well, it's because if you've dumped something that's not supposed to be dumped on that particular day, they will bring your trash bag right up to your door, or ring your doorbell and say, hey, you put out the wrong trash. It can be a little embarrassing. That's why check and see what goes out on what day. The good part about all of this separation of garbage is, of course, it's for recycling purposes. And when I taught 3rd grade, one of the field trips is to the trash center. So I learned all about trash when I was in Gunma. We actually went to the trash area, and there are people that separate even further. So you're dumping your trash bag, and when they take it to the trash center, it goes through even more scrutiny. Can you imagine having that job? I couldn't. Some of it is for safety of the environment, obviously, but oh my gosh, to have to sort through trash to make sure that there's no glass bottle in a paper bag, or no chemicals or plastics in a bag that's going to be burned because it has all raw food. Okay, so I get why everything is so strict, but here's the thing. Most of us foreigners are not used to separating our garbage to that degree. We can do the separation with the PET bottles or the plastic bottles your drinks come in, and your cans. That's pretty easy to do. But when it comes to things like plastic and looking to see if it has this Pura sign signifying that it's plastic, or separating your glass, your aerosol cans, anything with aluminum, like all that things, it takes a lot of work. And sometimes in the morning you just don't have that time. You'll find when you move into your place, you'll have like 5 trash cans for all different things. Believe it or not, it was even more particular years ago. And I think in some areas it still might be, where you have to even divide your paper. For example, they call it mixed paper. And that will go separate from the paper that is just your typical food garbage paper. I still don't really understand all the designations, but it can get pretty meticulous, and it just depends how strict your neighborhood is. So speaking of that, this is something you need to be aware of as well, that it usually doesn't always say in handbooks, but they have something called a community group. If you're living in an apartment complex or a housing complex, chances are you can be a little bit more anonymous. But if you're in a neighborhood that's kind of mixed with apartments and with houses, they have a community group. It's nothing like where you have to attend meetings. Sometimes you do. It's nothing like that. You can always decline, or you don't have to attend the functions that they may have, like the social functions, where is usually a sports day. But the things that you probably, I would say, it's nice to attend to show that you are a member of the community, is the community cleanup day. And that's where it's usually Sunday morning. Sunday morning. Not so long. Maybe it's from 7 to 9 or 8 to 10, I don't know, whatever your neighborhood hours are. And it usually doesn't last that long. It usually starts even a few minutes earlier. And if you've got other obligations, people do excuse you. It's not like you have to make an excuse why you can't go. You could even stay in your apartment and pretend you're not home. Which, if you think about it, they do this partly so that you get to know the people in your community and you feel like you're all working together. It's basically picking up garbage, sweeping up leaves, all that kind of stuff, and doing that for a good hour or so. Everybody dons their gloves. You go around sometimes with tongs and pick up things like cigarette butts or trash. If there's gum stuck somewhere, getting the gum out. If there's leaves, sweeping the leaves and sticks that have blown into the area, and everything's put in large garbage bags and then set for the next garbage day. Once again, it's not mandatory, but it's probably better if you go, or if you can go. I was always the token foreigner, so people were pretty understanding or nice if you forget or you don't go or you have other plans and you take off really early. But then you sort of feel guilty because everybody is there working to keep the neighborhood clean. So when I moved, I think when I was in Shizuoka, I made sure that I attended everything. I attended all the fire drills, the evacuation drills. I did all of that because they do extend that invitation to everybody. It's a good way to show them that you are contributing to the community and you are a law-abiding, I want to get along with everybody type of person. The other thing with your community that I think it's important that you should do, because if you decline, it just, I don't know, for me, it just seems like you're not willing to make any effort to live in the area that you live in, yet wouldn't you expect people to treat you and with respect living in the neighborhood? Okay, so this duty is the trash patrol duty, or the trash monitor, I guess, for lack of a better term. And that's the person that if you have a bin that gets set up on trash pickup day, you set it up, and after the trash is picked up, you're the one responsible for cleaning it up. If someone has left the wrong trash, you're the one responsible for either bringing it back to that person or leaving it there with a notice saying, hey, it wasn't this pickup day. If this is your trash, please come and claim it. A lot of times birds, crows, stray cats may have picked at the garbage, and it's the person in charge's duty to clean it up or make sure that the area stays clean. It's only, well, in my neighborhood, it's only for a week. So 1 week of garbage pickup. In your area, it might be for longer, it might be for shorter. But if you do get that responsibility, just do it. What's the harm? I know I don't like watching other people's garbage either, but who else is going to do it? And I think it's kind of nice that they have the neighborhood take turns and not a designated person that would have to drive around and come around and most likely clean up, because you will have those people that put out garbage on the wrong day. I've done that. I've been guilty of putting out the garbage on the wrong day, not because I wanted to, but because I didn't know. I thought you could put out an electrical appliance that you no longer need that is broken out on the day where they pick up things that are not burnables. And I didn't realize that you had to have a special sticker. In my particular neighborhood, if you have certain types of trash, you need to go to the convenience store to get a certain sticker. And if you put it out on the garbage day, it could be collected, but if it's oversized, you need to take it to a garbage center, which is pretty easy to do if you have a vehicle. But if you don't, you call up and you make an appointment so that the person picking it up will know where to come and what specifically they're picking up. This brings me to recycled garbage, which is right along with the whole separation thing. I don't fully know all the costs or what items they will not pick up and items that you have to pay a charge to have them picked up or to throw away somewhere. It seems strange that you have to pay to throw away your garbage when it's something like an air conditioner or a broken chair. There are people, especially in the bigger cities, that come around to either look through your garbage, and there are people in pickup trucks or campers or big vans that come around and will take certain things. The one that comes in the van, there's usually a loudspeaker saying that they will take away your like old refrigerator or old sofas or whatever. I learned a lesson the hard way. I had a sofa that I needed to get rid of. I figured if it were getting recycled, it would save me from having to dispose of it. They can take it, they can resell it. It was still in good condition, but I wanted to move without the sofa so my moving costs would be cheaper. And I figured that not having to pay the moving cost of carting a big sofa would allow me instead to get a new sofa. Oh, how I was wrong. I didn't realize that certain items are easy to recycle and others are not, which is why you need to pay a payment fee. I had a beautiful sofa bed, but the legs of that particular sofa were metal. If it were wood, no problem. But because it was metal and the base was kind of a metal base, I had to pay. Come to think of it. I paid more for the recycling of this sofa than I did for the actual sofa. This was when I was moving from Shizuoka to Gunma. I cried. I was just like, this is ridiculous. I was so pressed for money because moving is sometimes expensive no matter where you go. And I'm paying money to get rid of this sofa, and it's more than the cost of the sofa. That's when the guy told me that if the parts on it are not easy to recycle. Or if it's metal, it's going to be hard to not pay those fees. That's why air conditioning units, if you're going to get a new air conditioner and get rid of the old one, it's not so simple as just throwing it away. You have to pay to get it disposed. That was a tough time. I was so stressed out from moving. That wasn't the only thing, which is why, I'll tell you, I still have things in my apartment right now that I wish I could get rid of. What it's going to take is for me to make the appointment to the trash center and bring them there myself. That's what I had to wind up doing when I moved from Shizuoka. I just put everything in the back of the car, and you go to these trash centers. They don't care what it is. They don't care whether it's metal, paper, big, small, electronic. If you make the appointment there, they take it, everything. And yeah, that's what I did. I've done that a couple of times. Certain things I just didn't know where to put my trash. Back home in LA, we used to have anything goes day, right? Or you just put whatever into this big old trash can, and the trash collectors come and pick it up. And that was pretty easy. So, check out your garbage rolls before you even throw anything away. That was kind of a big lump of things that I just lumped all together. Let's talk about uninvited guests. I don't mean people. I mean insects and mold. If you're living in the countryside, hello, they could be your neighbors that never leave you alone. If you are someone that has never lived in humidity, welcome to the world of growing mold. Welcome to learning about cleansers, what cleansers are good to take mold off your walls or your mirrors or your clothes. That's a warning to everybody. Don't. Unless you're going to stay here for a long time, extended period of time like I did. Don't bring your fancy clothes or your special heirlooms until you get used to how the weather works. Don't bring your wedding dress in a box or in a bag, even if it's sentimental and you want it near you. Don't bring your nicest dress during, the summer or the fall. Be careful with your shoes, because all of these things can get mold, bing, like that. Now, they have different cleansers and they have different things that you could put in your closets, inside your actual shoes and clothing to combat mold and to keep the insects away. But until you kind of get to know what your area is like, you might not know this. I know a lot of people were so upset because they bought all their nice wardrobe. And if you arrive like other jets do in July, it's so hot and steamy. You wear your outfits, you hang them up in your apartment, and then the next day this green crap is growing on them. Bugs. Some of you that have lived in humid or places that have a lot of nature might be used to the bugs, and it's like no big deal. But for city people like me, like how I was in Los Angeles, you might not be used to cockroaches or a bug that comes out in the summer called a cicada, which makes a lot of noise. You might not be used to, especially if you're living in the countryside once again, having a frog or two hop into your entryway. Or going to fill your bath water and you see a slug in the bath area. I seem to always have geckos or lizards nearby. And I guess the good part is they are eating up the mosquitoes or the small gnats. If you are someone that is really squeamish or just freaked out by bugs, living in the countryside, as beautiful as it is, could be difficult for you, or could be something you want to make sure that you take all the precautions to have your apartment bug proof or bug safe. If you're in the mountainous areas, you even have to deal with something called mukade, which are the centipedes, and they are poisonous, where if they do bite you, and it's usually, sorry to scare you, on the face because you might be sleeping and they might crawl over you, or on the foot because you might accidentally step on them or be near them, and you can get swelling from them if you have a bad reaction. There's also the usual bees. You might even be in a snake area, like in Okinawa, where they have a poisonous snake. There was one year, maybe it was it during COVID? I can't remember. But sometimes the summers in city areas like Tokyo get so hot, you might see rats roaming the street. It's not that it's dirty, it's just these rats are trying to get water and keep cool like everybody else. So, yeah, once again, if you're really freaked out by bugs or having something like that in your apartment, I would say just take the steps, read to see how you can prevent them. Weather conditions are going to be a big part of your comfort, I think, when you're living in Japan, because the summers get very hot and humid, and the winters, depending on where you're stationed or where you're assigned to, could be very cold, dark, and icy. If you are one of those people whose moods or well-being is determined by the weather, sometimes Japan could be a really difficult place to live in, especially during rainy season when it's gray and wet and rainy for long periods of time. If you're somebody that needs the sunshine or an occasional time just outside to get some vitamin D, this could be a little challenging. On the same token, if you're someone that likes the cold or likes to be cool and comfortable, coming in the humidity of summer and the summer heat could be really difficult, especially in your house. Some old style houses or houses in the countryside don't have air conditioning all the time. They have fans, electric fans. They have electric coolers, but it's not the same as having an air conditioning unit. Some people in the winter don't use heating, like central heating or a heater or using the AC for heat. They might have something called, it's like kerosene stoves. That's what I had actually the whole time I was on jet. You had to either go to the gas station or wait till the kerosene truck drove around and you get your kerosene container filled and you pour it into the stove, you heat it. It does have a little bit of a smell that you have to get used to. But that was how you kept warm, and you didn't want to fall asleep with it on because, heaven forbid, you didn't want to have an accident. Now, thank goodness, most newer places all have heating or air conditioning units, at least in one room. But they might not have it in every room, so you'll need to get used to that. Your place where your residence may or may not have one already furnished, but if they don't and you want one, you'll have to get permission to see whether or not you can actually put it in to your building. And you'll also be responsible for disposing of it when you leave. So it's an investment. But if you're someone like me, I think it's an investment that you need. I mainly needed it for Sinbad and my mom because I didn't want them to bake inside our apartment. So it was a purchase that I never ever regretted. So keep that in mind when you're going shopping. Also, too, there's a lot of specials, so you can get nice air conditioning units for a smaller price. It may not blast for the whole room, but at least it'll keep you cool and comfortable. Something that I had to get used to when I first came to Japan, that was a little bit difficult, but I think when I lived in Los Angeles, we had the same thing, but it was easier, I think, for me to ignore. Hold on. Are door-to-door salespeople or people that collect things or pass out samples. If you're living in a complex, chances are you won't have as many because they have to be buzzed into your unit. But if you are in a house or where your door faces the outside, there may be different kinds of people stopping by. Before, it was easy to use the excuse, I'm sorry, I don't speak Japanese, but a lot of times too now, especially with apps, they have translations. You could, I don't know, some people have put on those signs, please no solicitors. I just learned how to not answer my door. I looked at the monitor to see who it was, but I still sometimes answer, especially if you've ordered things and you're expecting packages or the mailman or mail or something. They have different religious organizations that may sometimes come around, especially on Sundays when you want to just stay at your apartment and just relax. The religious organizations or spiritual organizations are not just Japanese ones, but also foreign ones, Western religions, Japanese religions, and they usually pass out a pamphlet. Sometimes they bring you a present or they just want to start talking. So just be prepared how you want to handle that. You've heard stories about the NHK people collecting. I don't get that. I mean, when I first came, I did have a TV. Yeah, I did watch NHK. So I just figured if I'm watching it, that's something I need to do, is pay for it. And it made it easier when I got a cable system, and all my television was included, so the payment came out with that bill. I don't know. It's really hard. I know a lot of people get really bugged by it and they say they don't have a TV or they don't want to pay it, or I don't know, whatever reason. You have to decide how you want to handle that. Personally, I feel like I don't want to do anything that is going to jeopardize my being here. If I have that service and I do use it, which I have, especially during times of emergencies, then I'm going to pay for it. If you have it automatically taken out, it makes it easier because then you don't have to worry about people coming to your door. I think there's a sticker that they have. So if you have paid, the sticker's on your door and you're never bothered. What else? You get a lot of flyers in your mailbox, and so I would say, especially if you're going on vacation or you're not going to be home for a couple of days, have the post office save your mail so that your mail isn't just bombarded with different flyers. Having flyers sticking out of your mailbox for a week is a big signal to tell everybody, hey, this person is not home. So that's something to be aware of. All right, so this last one. It's probably controversial, but I want to give you both sides of the pictures. There are a lot of foreigners when they come to Japan. They say how they feel that they are discriminated against because real estate agencies will say that, oh, the place you want to rent, the people say no foreigners, or it's really hard for foreigners to rent certain places because they're not shown them, or da-da-da-da. And I know that happens, and you need to be aware that it does happen, and sometimes the place that you may want to live or the places you want to look at might not be shown to you for those reasons. But let me dive in a little bit deeper with that. Most foreigners that are here, I'm not going to say all foreigners, but a lot of the foreigners, especially those of you coming on the JET program or coming to work with your particular type of visa, you are probably only going to be here for a year or 2 years, or according to your visa, you're only given that visa for a year. And whether or not you stay longer or extend it or get another type of visa, your landlord people or the people at the real estate company don't know that information. I don't even know if you know that information. Because when you come, and if you're unhappy with the place that you've been given, or it's too far away, or you want to move, and you may want to look around. Maybe your jet term is finishing and you want to look around and get a new place, or you want to move from the country to the city, whatever the case may be. But like I said, there's no guarantee, according to your visa and according to the documents that you're submitting, that you're going to be here for a long period of time. This goes not only for foreigners, but it also goes for Japanese people too. They may not want to rent to somebody that's young and just moving out unless they have, of course, older family or people that can vouch for them. And that's something we don't really have. It's kind of risky because as trustworthy as I know you guys are, and as trustworthy as I am, they can't just, I think they're just being extra cautious to protect not only the person who owns that property, but also their real estate company. I tried to think of a good analogy, so I hope this kind of works. Let's say you have a really nice car, a new car, and your friends want to borrow it. Let's say you live in, I don't know, some prefecture, let's say Tottori or whatever, Osaka, any prefecture. And your friend wants to borrow the car, and they want to borrow it for 3 months, and they're willing to pay you a fee for borrowing your car. They have their insurance, or they'll get the auto insurance, or they tell you that they will get the auto insurance and that you can trust them with the car. Since you're maybe going to be, during that time, maybe you're going on a trip back to your home country for the summer, or maybe you're going to be busy at work, so you agree to do it. You give these people or your friends or whoever it is you've loaned out your car to, and they start driving for maybe a month, and they think, oh my goodness, this is really hard. And they decide they change their plans. They're going to actually, instead of driving all the way to Hokkaido, they're going to park the car somewhere and fly to Hokkaido. But they're not sure where a good parking lot is or what they can do, so they just go and park the car on the street and take off, go to Hokkaido, and the car's just sitting there. And yeah, you weren't told that it was going to be sitting there, and then you get a phone call saying that your car's been impounded for whatever reason. Okay, this isn't the best analogy, but that's kind of the assumption when you're renting a place. You plan to stay there your whole time when you're on jet, right? The whole year or 2 years or 3 years. But there is always that possibility that you might go home, or you might move, or you might not like Japan and you might want to go somewhere else. And yeah, it's kind of a gamble. If you are on jet, obviously you're associated with Board of Educations or city halls that can vouch for you. But unfortunately, it's those few cases of people that have decided to leave, and it leaves the people that are renting out their place in a bind, because now they don't have that money coming in from that renter. They have to sometimes spend the money on cleaning the place or getting rid of the stuff that you left behind. I have been on both sides. I had to move into a place. I was just working a two-month job in Kurayoshi in Tottori Prefecture. And they put me into the girl who left suddenly and not unexpectedly. She just decided to leave. But she left her apartment a mess. Well, it probably wasn't a mess to her, but she left all her things behind, a lot of things behind, things I didn't need, but things that I had to get rid of in order for me to live comfortably in there. And I said it wasn't fair that I had to assume the cost of cleaning this all out. So the school had to assume the cost. And it was a lot of things. It was things like old blankets that were not kept properly. So they were moldy and dirty. It was a lot of flatware and eating utensils and pots and pans and utensils that were just left not cleaned or anything. So yeah, that was an extra expense. And that was how easy. I mean, it was easy. Once she left, she was gone. And that was the end of that. My place that I own in Shizuoka, sadly, I can't live there because my job is in a different area. But I depend on renters to pay, my mortgage fees because I'm still paying mortgage as well as my rent. Luckily, my real estate company screens pretty well. I do have final say in yes or no. Do I want this person? Am I okay with that person? And if you were renting out your place, maybe you're one of the types of people that it doesn't matter to you what the conditions are. You'll rent it to anybody. You don't care if maybe they are late with the rent or if they want to throw parties all the time. It doesn't bother you. But it might bother you, and I think there's nothing wrong with it bothering you because that's my place and I don't want it destroyed, obviously. I don't want it to be things get broken because what if I have to fix everything? And I've already had to fix things like a water heater or the shower head or whatever. I also want to make sure that the people are going to pay the rent on time because I've got payments coming out. And if their rent is not in on time, then I have to make sure that I have the money in there so that I don't miss a mortgage payment. It has nothing to do with whether a person is a foreigner or not. It's just examining everything about their application and whether or not the companies or the people that own the place feel that they would be a responsible tenant. So when people say you're not getting shown places because you're a foreigner or whatever, it's not, I don't think, based on you personally, but it's perhaps stereotypes of lifestyle issues or experiences with other foreigners that have left without paying and not taking care of the place they're living in. It's having dealt with foreigners who are only here for a limited number of time, and as soon as they leave, they have to find a new client. Whereas if they can find somebody that's going to stay for a longer period of time, it's a little bit more security. It's also, once again, stereotypes about lifestyle. That's why, going back to that whole thing about participating in the trash community cleanup or taking your turn when it's your patrol duty time, you're showing them that you are willing to transition and live in the lifestyle that your particular neighborhood has, uphold the rules, uphold respect for the community, and you're not going to go around at night with loud parties or barbecuing in a place where you're not supposed to barbecue or putting on lights all over your building on your windows or whatever it is that they may ask you, hey, can you not do that? I kind of think if you think back to your home country, you've probably rented places without any problem, but once again, you might be a citizen of that country. You've got family members most likely there. And yeah, it's a little bit different when you come here and people don't have much to judge whether or not your integrity is good or you're willing to uphold all the laws and stuff. And unfortunately, as you know from YouTube, there are a number of videos when foreigners don't respect the neighborhood rules or people's privacy, or they do things that maybe are not what the community would hope that you do. Does that make sense? So I'm not saying it like there's absolutely no discrimination, because there is. But I think it's just based on lifestyle and what people, the unknown, like not knowing what your lifestyle is in your home country, or what holidays you practice, or what kinds of things you do, or what kind of food you may be cooking in your kitchen that might make the hallway smell delicious, or might make people uncomfortable. All kinds of things. So, yeah. I do think that if you are willing to be patient, and if you take things with an open mind, that you can have good experiences looking for places. You can be particular, and you can show and prove to your future landlords or your future housing company that you are a responsible person. Obviously, if they ask you for certain documents and you don't have them, or you don't have much credibility, I don't even know if I could trust somebody applying for my particular apartment or my unit. I don't know whether I would feel comfortable renting it to somebody that can't show me that they're going to be responsible. Also, too, same with pets. I've mentioned this in another video. Some people complain that, it's so hard to get an apartment in Japan if you have pets. It isn't. It really isn't. There are plenty of pet-friendly places. But you just might have to put out a little bit more money. You might have to put down a bigger deposit. And you have to think really carefully about the people around your neighborhood. Are they going to be comfortable if you've got a huge dog and they have a small baby next door and they've never actually lived with somebody with big dogs? I don't know. I just think, what nobody tells you is that we're all learning about each other at the same time. You're learning about what it's like to live in Japan just as much as your Japanese neighbors are going to be learning about how you live. Or your real estate companies are going to be learning how you negotiate businesses. All of these things are learning opportunities. I think there's just too many complaint videos about this and this and this and this. Rather than complain, let's find solutions. Let's find ways that we can show we are hardworking members of this society. We want to contribute and share not only our culture, but we also want to learn about Japanese culture so that we can live harmoniously in the same neighborhood. My gosh, that sounds like such a school teachery thing to say. Let's live harmoniously in the neighborhood. All right. So that's, I think, it for this chapter. I've left a few things out because they may pop up in other videos or they may come up in another time. But if you have things that you've thought about, or maybe questions you have, or perspectives from your experience, please share them in the comments. It helps me too to learn about some of the things that you're experiencing, or some of the things that you're curious or worried about. I hope I hope this series has been helpful or will be helpful before you come to Japan, or if you are currently living in Japan. Once again, I enjoy doing whatever I can to share things so that it makes things maybe a little bit easier to deal with. If you are struggling or having a rough time, please feel free to reach out. And my Japanese is nowhere fluent, but if I can help you in any way with some of the things that I've learned over the past 37 years here in Japan, and also too as being a Los Angeles city girl and getting assigned to Tottori, the most country prefecture in Japan, but also experiencing life in other prefectures, I hope my experiences can help you as well. All right. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for all the new subscribers. It's like the highlight when I look and I say, oh my gosh, you're actually listening and watching. And that just makes me so excited and happy. I will hopefully see you in the next video. Thank you so much. Take care.